What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 2021 My Team Career Mode for Season 3, Round number 6, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. One of my favourite races on the calendar. I really do like this track. We start off with the activities, just as usual, just putting in whatever we can, really, getting our second driver a little bit more, get him a little bit more up there, and, some other things here and there. I mean, we have been quite comprehensively beaten by Ricciardo these last couple of races, so we really need to, put our foot down a little bit to try and catch up to him, because he's now ahead of us by a decent margin in the driver's standings. As we look at the R&D, once again, we're just kind of plateauing a little bit here. We did actually just put a chassis upgrade on the car, but that's not going to come through until the next race. But yeah, Red Bull looks like are now the second quickest team, but still a massive gaggle of, the top 5 really altogether, with my team just a little bit ahead. Everybody is pretty close to each other, so it's going to be interesting to see how this progresses throughout the season. Of course, we are kind of sandbagging a little bit at the moment, although in saying that, I've actually pretty much put, I've put a chassis upgrade on this time, and there's a couple, I think I've pretty much done all the aero upgrades, and there's only a few little bits. Powertrain is the main one that I now need to focus on, but I haven't got Spec 3 for powertrain yet, so I'm waiting to get a little bit more money. I want to make sure I also have enough money, though, to renew Daniel Ricciardo's contract when the half-season point comes, which I think will be in a couple of races' time, so not going crazy on the spending at the moment. In Q1, Daniel Ricciardo goes quickest, so shows our car has some good pace here. We go P7, so it's a pretty decent result from me. As you might have seen throughout this whole kind of career mode series, I'm definitely quite a bit down on my teammates and compared to the rest of the people in qualifying, but I seem to have much better race pace, and I'm there in race pace. I'm just a little bit further back in quali, so as long as I can get into the top 10, I'm pretty happy. And like I said, this is one of my better tracks, I think. We go a little bit wide, a little bit deep into that kind of chicane section there, but yeah, this is one of my better tracks. I think it's one of the tracks I prefer driving the most, and yeah, there's definitely moments like here through the castle section that you can get things very, very wrong. And this corner here going into the left-hander down this kind of back straight is one of my weaker parts of the track. Just getting turned into that corner, I tend to go a bit too wide sometimes, but in Q2 we actually go quickest because me and Guan Yu Zhou, the top 2, both get through to Q3 on the soft tyres. Everybody else in the top 10 gets through on the mediums, so that's going to be interesting for the race tomorrow. It's going to be a fully dry race. We're going to be starting on the softs. Pretty much everybody around us will be on the medium, so it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the race. As we go through into Q3 here with the quickest run, we have, I believe that is, I don't know who that is in front of us. It might be Perez, I think. One of the Red Bulls, and look like a shorter name, so I believe that would be Perez in front. And yeah, we're a little bit close to him, to be honest. I mean, I think it's Max Verstappen, the McLaren behind us. He's very close to the back of us, but I don't know how much dirty air affects the AI compared to how it does for, the player. But we are definitely a bit too close to Perez, in my opinion here, which probably screws over our lap a little bit here. But like I said before, just getting into the top 10 is good enough for me. I'm never way up there at the top. I mean, there's a couple of tracks that in the past I have been better in qualifying. Austria is probably the main one where I seem to be quite quick in Austria, so it's going to be interesting. We've actually got Austria not next time out. I think it's round 8 Austria after Canada next time out, so it'll be interesting to see where we sit there. And also Brazil, Sao Paulo seems to be one of my better tracks for qualifying as well, so it'll be interesting if we can actually get into the mix a little bit more on those ones. But here, although this is one of my better tracks, I think the bit of dirty air and just generally not the best driving from me. I mean, it was an okay lap, but definitely not the best I could have ever done. And we're going to come across the line at the moment to finish this lap. Verstappen is right behind us there. We're going to come through for P9, so we beat Guan Yu Zhou at least, so that's something. We're not P10. Daniel Ricciardo only manages P4, so a little bit surprised there. Thought he might have been on the front row. It's actually Lando Norris who's going to start on pole position for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix alongside Sergio Perez and then Charles Leclerc. So let's see how this goes.
Welcome to all of you watching at home to today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and a race that in its short history has already proven no stranger to drama. A 4th row start is just about as likely to give you a podium as a pole position would. And remember, in 2017 and 2018, both Lance Stroll and then Sergio Perez took surprise podiums here. Baku City Circuit then, an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. Anthony Davidson, thanks for joining me once again for the Grand Prix. Let's talk about Shaw. That was a solid result in their last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Ricciardo, Max Verstappen and Giovinazzi, Sainz, Hamilton, Shaw and Guan Yu Zhou, Ocon, Gasly, Fernando Alonso and Lundgaard, Vettel, Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas and George Russell, Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Latifi and Nikita Mazepin. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
Alright, so we're starting on the 5th row of the grid, as we have been quite a lot recently, to 5 red lights for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and away we go. We're on the soft tyres along with Guan Yu Zhou, who is alongside me. Everybody ahead is on the mediums, as I think my my engineer is telling me about possibly some gearbox wear that I have, and maybe even some control electronics wear, because we do have some fairly worn parts on the car, as we just about managed to get around the outside of Lewis Hamilton into turn 2, and we're ahead of him, ahead of the two Mercedes going onto this first little straight here. We've got Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari up ahead. Those Ferraris looking pretty quick. I mean, to be fair, they were the quickest team actually at the start of the season. We then overtook them, and they've now dropped down to like the 5th quickest team. I mean, that whole group of myself, Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull and Mercedes is all right on top of each other. But yeah, Ferrari does seem to be going down the pecking order a little bit here in regards to that top 5, but it is also very close. And of course, Charles Leclerc leads the championship. He's currently up in P3 behind Sergio Perez in the Red Bull, and Lando Norris, as you can see on the minimap there, leads the way by a pretty decent margin. He's got a fairly good gap up at the front there, but we are just trying to keep the two Mercedes behind. Lewis Hamilton, the one directly behind us, on the medium tyres. Everybody ahead is also on the medium tyres, but this track is a fairly difficult track to overtake on. It is, of course, quite a tight street circuit. Now, you've got the bit that we're coming up to now, the long front straight, after the kind of little S's section we will go through now. That is the main overtaking opportunity, because you've got the DRS. It is a massive long straight as the cars go barreling through these fast corners. This is the main place to overtake, but when everybody's all in front of each other like this, nose to tail is what I'm trying to say, it is very difficult to overtake. So it's going to be interesting to see even how we get past these medium tyre cars in this race here.
Gearbox issue, but I'm afraid there's nothing we can do. Try and drive around it, we'll just have to hope for the best. Remember that you have a lot of torque in these power units, so you should be able to stay in higher gears for a lot of the lap.
So as I expected, we have some gearbox trouble in this race. Unfortunately, the gearbox is the one thing that I haven't quite got to level 3 on durability yet, so we really need to do that, because yeah, this is the last race that, you have to use the gearbox for 6 races, as we clatter the wall a little bit there. And I think, it doesn't say we have any damage, but as we go through these next couple of sections, it doesn't feel right. So I'm going to come into the pits, because these soft tyres, I'm not making the progress I thought I would be. I think I should be on these soft tyres. So I'm going to change them to a set of mediums quite a couple of laps early. And as you can see here, the nose is getting changed to the front wing. We did get a tiny little bit of damage off that wall there. So I'm glad I came in. I also thought this is probably a good spot to come in as well, a good time to come in, because we've got the gearbox issue that's given us issues too, and it's actually quite good because when we come out of the pits, the gearbox issue had been fixed, as Guan Yu Zhou also came in just a lap after us. He was also on the softs from the start, but I think he must have had a change as well, a front wing change too, because he ends up right in our clutches after we have the front wing change as well. We overtake, I think that was Nikita Mazepin, who is way down the back of the grid here in the Haas, and we now have the run on Guan Yu Zhou. We don't even really need DRS to get past him, but he is actually going to be coming into the pits again on this lap, so terrible race for Guan Yu Zhou. He's just come into the pits twice in like 2 laps. Must have got a little bit of damage from his battle with Guan Yu Zhou there, so really unfortunate for him. He's not having the season he would have hoped in that Mercedes. As we catch up now to the back of Nicholas Latifi, we are very quick on these medium tyres now, that is for sure. Latifi's on the softs, but I mean, he's been on these softs since, I believe, the start of the race. I don't know, he might have changed, but we're going to go for an audacious look of the inside of the very quick left-hander, and we just about managed to keep the position there. That was very, very close. Could have ended up in a big accident, but I had just a little bit of a lift, but enough speed through there so that we could keep the position. And the next lap around, we go quickest. We are the fastest man on the track right now. We're back up into P9 behind Hamilton, although a fair way behind him, 20 odd seconds, because of our issue, our pit stop issue. Now we continue on here towards the front of the grid. Charles Leclerc is right up behind Sergio Perez. There's a nice little train of 4, maybe even 5 cars here. Lando Norris is a fair way up the lead. You can just see him up the front there, and it's Perez in second from Leclerc in third. Ricciardo still sitting there in fourth, and then I think it's Max Verstappen in fifth and Giovinazzi in sixth. So a very, very nice little battle going on between all these guys here, but at the moment it's just a little bit of a DRS train. Of course, Leclerc is wanting to extend his championship lead. He actually has a pretty decent lead. It's about 30 odd points in the lead of this championship at the moment, but this time around Sergio Perez comes in for his pit stop. Daniel Ricciardo has actually managed to jump Perez and Leclerc in the pits there. Verstappen has also managed to jump Leclerc in the pits. So Leclerc dropping down the order. Ricciardo seems to be making his way up the order a bit here, so hopefully he can be going for a potential podium or maybe even a win if he can chase down his old teammate Lando Norris. As we come through this section here, George Russell is out of the session. He's the first victim of this race to come out of the race because of a mechanical failure, so that's really unfortunate for him. He's not having a good season in the Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo really just not very competitive this season, unfortunately, as I believe that is Charles Leclerc comes out of the pits there. I think it is Charles Leclerc, and now he's been overtaken by Lewis Hamilton. So Leclerc, the championship leader, not having such a great race here. He's finished on the podium every race so far, but not looking so good. But he goes to attack Hamilton. He's having a good old battle with Lewis Hamilton here as they go around this corner. It's actually Carlos Sainz, this is Carlos Sainz, I think, that's having the battle with Hamilton right here. So Sainz has not been having a good, well, compared to his teammate, really not had a good season so far, and he is finding himself down the order, been overtaken by Lewis Hamilton. As now we continue on here, this is, I'm not 100% sure, this might be Sergio Perez, I think, trying to get the move back done on Daniel Ricciardo after Ricciardo got him in the pit stop. Ricciardo actually was up to second place there. As you can see, they've slightly caught up to Norris a little bit, but now Sergio Perez moves himself up into second place, and that's a very good drive from him. Ricciardo down to third. As we continue on here, we're trying to chase down Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. They were having a little bit of a battle that last couple of laps, so we've managed to catch them a little bit here, and they're on soft tyres, so I think they started on the mediums, they've gone on to softs for the second stint. So the softs really not a good tyre for here though. Just tyre wear is quite high, and ultimately with them battling, I can actually keep with them on the medium tyres. As now we watch once again Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez has got a fair way up the road, and now Max Verstappen is going for the move on Daniel Ricciardo, and he gets that done before they even get to turn 1. So that is Max Verstappen up into P3. Daniel Ricciardo has now fallen out of the podium positions and is falling down the order, and now his championship rival Charles Leclerc is right behind him as we come in for our final pit stop onto a second set of medium tyres. This will hopefully take us to the end of the race, and we come out of the pits in P10. I think it's Fernando Alonso just up ahead. He hasn't come in for his second pit stop yet, and he comes in this lap around. And also Carlos Sainz comes in too, and we're actually going to jump Carlos Sainz in the pit, well, undercut Carlos Sainz here. So we're up into P8, so that's actually pretty good for us. After all the catastrophic stuff going on at the start of this race, we've managed to undercut Sainz and get in front of him here. And now we've got Lewis Hamilton up ahead. Charles Leclerc is up in 6th place, so he is way off a podium position. Like I said, he's finished on the podium all 5 races so far this season, but it's not looking too good for him this time out as we set another purple lap time. We are starting to get into the groove of this track on the medium tyres, and we're showing some pretty good pace. As we speak about the championship leader, Charles Leclerc, he's now gonna try and look at a move on Daniel Ricciardo, his main rival in the championship at this current point in time, and Leclerc is going to try and go round the outside of turn 1. They're still side by side going through here up to turn 2. Ricciardo is not going to give in easily. He brakes later, he forces Leclerc a little bit wide, but then Ricciardo still on the inside. I'm not sure who has the DRS here, but I think on the left we're just about going to see Daniel Ricciardo just inch ahead, so I think he must have the DRS, but Leclerc's going to keep it round the outside of, I think that is turn 3, but they're still side by side going through turn 4. Ricciardo not giving this one up. He wants to keep a place, gain some points on his rival, and he stays ahead for now, but I think this is going to be a good battle for a couple of laps here between the two current championship rivals, as we on lap 20 have now caught right up to the back of Lewis Hamilton going through the castle section. But we're going to have another message come up here.
Mechanical issue means you've lost one of the gears. Say again, you have lost access to one of the gears.
So it's more gearbox trouble for us just as we close up to the 1 second mark on Lewis Hamilton. We've lost 4th gear again. It is 4th gear once again. We lost 4th gear last time. It's 4th gear again this time, and it's actually honestly really annoying gear to lose, but it actually only takes a lap or so to fix itself, and we've got the gear back again. We're all good in working order, and now we're right up behind Lewis Hamilton. We've managed to stay in DRS zone, and we're going to absolutely use as much ERS as we can right there. He's going to go defensive. We're going to go to the outside into this corner here, but he just about keeps it, but then he's going to be compromised out of the run on the next corner. We're round the outside going through the next corner, but he jumps over the curb and he smacks into our front right tyre. A little bit of contact there. Doesn't look like there's any damage. Of course, it could be like earlier in the race where we hit a wall. It didn't say that we had front wing damage, but we actually did. But I think we have just about gotten away with that one. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton really wanting to keep that position there. As we look further on to the front again, as Charles Leclerc going for another move on Daniel Ricciardo. The same thing again, round the outside of turn 1. This time Daniel Ricciardo cannot keep his car quite as alongside, and it looks like at the moment, unless he can do anything down the straight here, Leclerc has got up into, I think, P5, and now Daniel Ricciardo is actually falling into the clutches of Antonio Giovinazzi, who I believe is actually on the soft tyres. As we continue on here on this same lap that we had a little bit of a tussle, I think, with Lewis Hamilton, or maybe the lap after, we're trying to stay behind him here, and we're now down the front straight, and this time we're going to try and get past him with DRS. He really doesn't have anything he can do here. We're close enough that we just managed to sail around the outside of him and get the position on Lewis Hamilton. That's P7. Giovinazzi is the car ahead. He's on the soft tyres though, and then it's Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, Ricciardo fallen all the way down to 5th place at the moment. Leclerc is now up into 4th, so Leclerc's probably not going to get a podium here, but it's looking better for him, and he looks like he is going to gain points on his main rival Daniel Ricciardo, as he gains even more points on him as Giovinazzi goes for a move around the outside on Ricciardo, with Giovinazzi on the soft tyres, Ricciardo on the mediums. Giovinazzi just manages to get that move done, and he is now up into, I think, P5, and he's going to see if he can chase down Charles Leclerc in these last couple of laps, and I think he does get that done, because we see in the top left there, Ricciardo directly in front of us in P6, Leclerc in P5, so, I mean, look at how close we are to these top guys here. If we didn't have that issue at the start with our front wing coming off, I think we would have beaten Ricciardo here, and honestly, we could have had the pace to maybe go, I mean, maybe not a podium, because these top guys here, Lando Norris way ahead. Max Verstappen has actually got himself up into P2 for a McLaren 1-2, but Sergio Perez is putting the pressure on him. right here, but he's in P3. These top three were a fair way ahead, but I think if we didn't have that that front wing damage on lap 4, we could have been in for a pretty decent P4. I mean, you can just about see a car in the background. That might have actually been one of the Hasses getting overtaken, I think it was, or one of the Alfa Romeos under blue flags. But I think if we didn't break our front wing, we could have got a fairly easy P4 and beaten our teammate. But unfortunately, a little bit of damage for us, a little bit of a mistake for us, means that we're going to finish down in P7. It's a nice race to the end here for P2, but Max Verstappen's going to take P2 for a McLaren 1-2 with Lando Norris winning the race, Sergio Perez in second. I think Giovinazzi comes home in fourth. Leclerc, the championship leader, a 5th place. It's his worst result of the season so far, but he still beats myself and Daniel Ricciardo. But a P7 for us, I think, is going to drop us down the order a little bit here. Verstappen gets driver of the day for that great P2 finish, and it's a very good day for McLaren.
Here we are then, it's victory in Azerbaijan. Great work from the whole team here at the track and back at the factory as well. And some pretty handy driving for good measure. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track.
So McLaren are showing a little bit more dominance once again this season after being there or thereabouts here and there this season. They go for a 1-2. I think it's the first 1-2 of any team so far this season. Lando Norris wins it with Max Verstappen up in P2 and Sergio Perez keeping his consistency going in P3. And it's a good day for Red Bull with Giovinazzi in 4th, Leclerc in 5th, Ricciardo 6th, me in 7th, Lewis Hamilton 8th, Sainz 9th, and Esteban Ocon manages to get into P10. George Russell being the only DNF of this race, and that changes the championship quite a lot. Not George Russell, but just the whole results in general. Leclerc still has a pretty good lead over the top of the field, but it's Daniel Ricciardo still in 2nd. Verstappen has now moved up to 3rd with Norris in 4th. We drop down from 3rd place to 5th place with not the best results here. Perez still staying there in 6th. Giovinazzi moves down to 7th. So yeah, it's not the best day for us moving down the order, but I'm hoping next time out in Canada we can move higher up the grid. But what is good for us is that we move into the lead of the Constructors' Championship. TGL Motorsport now leads the Constructors. McLaren move up to 2nd and Ferrari drop down to 3rd, but it is very, very close. I think Ferrari and McLaren are on the exact same amount of points, and they are less than 10 points behind my team, so it's very close at the top in the Constructors. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.